They're taking U.S. empire out of it, and they're having it basically be a direct weapon of the bankers. So instead of the bankers like buying up U.S. politicians and influencing U.S. empire and getting what they want that way, they're reimagining it to basically create this new economic system that we've seen bits of over the past few years. The idea of programmable, surveillable money, and also this idea of a voluntary carbon market, the goal of which is to have it be voluntary and name only, not unlike digital ID and all of that stuff. The IMF, the World Bank, intimately tied with U.S. empire. The U.S. military even admitted in documents that were published by WikiLeaks that they're financial weapons of the U.S. military, the IMF and the World Bank.
Whitney Webb is an independent investigative journalist who founded Unlimited Hangout, a media site where she publishes her in-depth research and reporting. Previously, she worked as a staff writer for Mint Press News and has also contributed to outlets such as Ben Swann's Truth in Media. Webb is the author of a 2-volume book series titled One Nation Under Blackmail, which delves into the intelligence connections and organized crime ties of Jeffrey Epstein. Through her research, Webb warns about the increasing dangers of surveillance, the role of companies like Palantir in data collection, and the potential risks associated with central bank digital currencies being used as a tool for financial control. Despite the controversial nature of her reporting, Webb states that she continues her work out of necessity to expose corruption, rather than out of bravery. Regarding Bitcoin and BlackRock, Whitney Webb expresses skepticism and concern about the influence of major financial institutions like BlackRock on the cryptocurrency. She believes that the entrance of BlackRock into the Bitcoin space should be met with extreme scrutiny by Bitcoiners and investors. Webb argues that there is a fight being had right now about the future of Bitcoin, and people need to decide which side they are on, whether they will fight for Bitcoin to be a tool of financial freedom or allow it to be co-opted by the powers that be. Furthermore, Webb highlights the potential conflicts of interest, such as BlackRock's stake in Circle, a company issuing stablecoins like USDC, which can directly impact Bitcoin's price. She suggests that large financial institutions are moving towards tokenization and fractionalization of assets, using blockchain technology to create a universal ledger and encourage people to join a system with a universal ID. According to Whitney Webb, BlackRock and other major financial institutions are acquiring Bitcoin as part of a broader plan to gain unprecedented levels of control and influence. She believes their ultimate goal is to create a new financial system that allows them to own and control nearly everything while minimizing risk. Essentially, Webb sees the moves by BlackRock and others as an attempt to co-opt Bitcoin and the decentralized finance movement. Instead of promoting financial freedom, she believes they want to leverage the technology for their own benefit, ultimately ushering in a new era of financial control and surveillance over the population. Now let's listen to what she has more to say on it.
It's been criticized by people on the left and the right. And then there's been time and time again, it's been revealed by even mainstream media. This, you can look at the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero that was created by Mark Carney and Mike Bloomberg, which somehow the UN decided were the best people for the job of saving the planet. They're in charge of climate finance for the United Nations. The stop and frisk New York mayor billionaire from Salomon Brothers, Mike Bloomberg, and the former head of the Bank of England and Bank of Canada and former Goldman Sachs guy, Mark Carney. That's who's saving the planet for the UN. They're the ones reimagining this, the whole multilateral development banking system. And part of this involves this carbon market play where the World Bank, along with Google and some other actors, are developing climate wallets. They're designing it. It's designed to run on, I believe, the Chia network, which is the guy that invented BitTorrent, his new project. And they claim to be sort of like a net zero blockchain, I guess. And basically the idea of it is for people to participate in the carbon market to come. And the idea of people being able to sort of like monetize nature. And there's a whole lot of stuff going on with carbon credits and carbon markets right now. And it's a very murky legal area. And I'm very concerned about it because there's this whole mentioned but relatively unexplored issue of so-called carbon rights, where the person that buys the carbon credit can get rights to the carbon in the forest the credit represents. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like I buy a carbon credit in this forest, this Colombian rainforest, and now I am potentially the owner of the carbon in those trees, so I can decide what happens to that carbon. And the people that actually like own the land are like Colombians, they don't necessarily own it anymore, potentially. This is like this murky gray area, so it's opening the way up, I think, to some land grabs in the global south. So a lot of very disturbing things happening in carbon market land, and even under the idea of reducing CO2 levels and all of that, the carbon market as it's been functioning just hasn't done that. It's been criticized by people on the left and the right, and then there's been time and time again, it's been revealed by even mainstream media that up to 90% of all carbon credits on the market right now are completely worthless and meaningless. So it's basically like the junk bond scandal of the 1980s again. And what's interesting is that the person that invented carbon markets and carbon credit trading is a guy named Richard Sander, who worked at Drexel Burnham Lambert, the junk bond scandal bank of the 1980s. He was a senior vice president until he was brought in by the George Bush Sr. administration to apply free markets to environmental issues for Bush Sr.'s EPA, and then was contacted by this like Rockefeller oligarch guy who was at the UN named Maurice Strong to develop the same solution for carbon. And he's also the father of derivatives of financial futures, which of course helped explode in 2008. So the guy that invented all of that is the guy that invented carbon credit trading, and he also wants to make a market just like that for free water and free air, so you can, get basically taxed on that too. I think a lot of this we're going to be seeing going forward, this push to have economically destabilized countries in Latin America turn towards dollar-denominated stable coins. Like that's happening in Argentina, for example, because of like the issues with the peso there and how it's been devalued so much, even under Milei. People are flocking to dollars essentially, but like stable coins, either like Tether USDT or Circle's USDC. And this whole crypto ecosystem in Argentina is pretty much, largely managed by this one particular network that's intimately tied to the satellite company I was talking about. They're all tied up with this group called Endeavor, which Endeavor has an Argentina branch. They have branches really all over the world. They're based in the United States. Their board is chaired by Edgar Bronfman Jr. of the Bronfman family, which, if you're familiar with my books, is intimately tied to organized crime and basically the people behind Justin Trudeau. And another person on their board is Reid Hoffman, who's the co-founder of LinkedIn, who was a member, part of the so-called PayPal mafia. And probably the closest person in Silicon Valley. Reid Hoffman is a big funder of sort of Democrat causes and the Democrats, but other members of the quote unquote PayPal mafia are very much supportive of Trump. For example, Peter Thiel was a big force on Trump's transition team. People that worked very closely for Thiel and Thiel's Palantir basically directed all the early policy decisions and appointments of Trump's Department of Defense. And there's been a lot of connections, I think, still between PayPal mafia and Trump. And you have someone like Elon Musk also sort of posturing publicly anyway as a libertarian and sort of in that right populist camp. So I think this particular network has people who sort of play to both sides of the political machine, which is frankly, if you want to get lots of lucrative government contracts, that's what you do.
So now we can see again that Whitney Webb argues that this adoption is not a positive development, but rather a calculated move by these powerful entities to gain control over the cryptocurrency market and ultimately people's financial freedom. She believes that all of these big firms tried to stop people from buying Bitcoin or getting into crypto, but they failed. So now they are coming with the plan B of buying as much Bitcoin as possible, with the ultimate goal to co-opt the decentralized nature of Bitcoin and use it as a tool to further their own interests, rather than promoting financial autonomy for individuals. Moreover, Webb points out that many of these elites, such as Elon Musk and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, often play both sides of the fence. They cultivate relationships with the government and secure lucrative contracts, while simultaneously presenting themselves as champions of free speech and decentralization. This duality, she argues, allows them to maintain their influence and control across various sectors. She believes that under the guise of adoption and mainstream acceptance, these powerful entities are working to create a system that ultimately undermines the core principles of decentralization and individual autonomy that Bitcoin was founded upon. Webb urges the public to remain vigilant, question the motives of those in power, and actively resist attempts to centralize control over cryptocurrencies and other aspects of the financial system. Now you guys tell us, what do you guys think of this? Why does all of a sudden the point of view of these BlackRock and governments changed? Do let us know in the comment box below. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.